Hi folks, I'm Sheila and welcome to Counsellor Convos. Let's get stuck in. Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Counsellor Convos. For people who don't know me, I'm Sheila McMahon. I'm a registered mental health counsellor, but more importantly, I'm a survivor of mental ill health. Folks, today it's World Suicide Prevention Day as we are doing this recording today, and I am honoured and delighted to have Scott Elliott here from AndysManClub. Hello, Scott.
Morning, Sheila.
It's lovely to see you.
Yes, you too.
Oh, great stuff. Scott, thank you so much, first of all, for being here. I've been aware of AndysManClub for many years now. When I've done my theatre shows, so I do mental health theatre shows in Lichfield, and I have done so in other places. I get the leaflets, I put them out there on the table, but I've never had a chance to speak to anybody from the
Well,
club. So here we are
here
then.
we are. Here we are.
Scott, if you don't mind getting stuck into it straight away, how come you got involved?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a troubled story, really.
Okay.
If I'm brutally honest.
Yeah.
I had a very troubled childhood.
Okay.
I'm a sexual abuse survivor.
Okay.
All through my teenage years. And at the time, I had nobody to turn. So it was back in the 80s.
Okay.
So it's one of those that you couldn't tell your teachers, your parents, or
Yeah.
anything like that. I got to age 16. I was discarded as a person, thrown away, probably as it was. And then so I turned, to try and block everything out. I obviously had no outlet at all.
Yeah.
So I turned to drink, drugs.
Yeah.
Did all that, joined the military to try and put some order back into my life, thinking that would give me, I'd had that all through my teenage years. Did this, and this,
Yeah.
this way, and that way, and then nothing, and then I was lost. And it's a bit like the Stockholm syndrome, where you just think you go back to things that you probably shouldn't really go back to in reality.
Yeah, absolute part of that will be the trauma. I mean, let's pause for a moment, Scott, because there's so much to take in here. And even when you mentioned about back in the 1980s, how different it was then, the sort of behaviours that went on, that for yourself, John, unfortunately, you experienced sexual abuse for many years, that there wasn't anybody to turn to, that you were on your own effectively with that. And
Yeah, totally.
yeah, with no outlets. I mean, it's totally understandable that later on in your teens you turned to alcohol and to drugs because you would have had all those years of the lack of support. I mean, I suppose that's what strikes me straight away, Scott, is the 1980s. Do you mind
Yes.
asking how old are you, Scott, if you don't mind sharing that?
I'm 55.
Okay, sure. So when you're going back, so in the 80s, then you would have been what, teenager?
I was a teenager. I was 11, 16,
Yeah,
early 80s.
yeah,
So, when I was kind of going through, so it was all through my school years. So,
yeah.
it's early 80s. It was early 80s for me. So,
Oh, so you really are a survivor, Scott, then?
a total survivor. Total
Mhm.
survivor.
Yeah,
It's I know we tend to use words of people use victim and stuff like that, and and people are, but
yes, yeah.
for me, um, survivor is a big word for me
Okay.
because I really have gone to the depths of dark places that are not good,
Yeah.
but I found an outlet, which is AndysManClub. Eventually, it took a
Yeah.
long time to get there.
Yeah. When
You
did you
know,
find Andy's Man's Club?
Do you know what? It was a really difficult time. It was back in 2017 for me. I was
Okay.
at work, and there was a segment on the radio about two guys who'd come on, speaking. They were just about to go to court, and their story And well, as I was listening to it, without even noticing, I was starting to cry
Yeah.
through their story.
Yeah.
And what they were saying, they could have been speaking about me in exactly the same way. What happened to them, the way it happened, the kind of people it happened with, that was my story. So now I'd hidden everything. No, not a soul had known about what I'd gone through.
Yeah.
And I broke the drink and the drugs. I got through that all on my own.
Yeah.
And but now I was at work. This story came out on the radio, and it broke me there and then.
Yeah, and so many years, and sorry, Scott, so many years, of oh God, holding all that stuff. Like, it's horrible having that stuff done to you, but then not being able to process it, not being able to speak to anybody, not being able to walk through it, to get closure. Like that stuff kills people. Like,
It does.
when people haven't been through abuse or bullying or loss or many different things that can happen in people's lives, they don't understand how mental health can affect anybody. And when you hear things like, "Oh, snap out of it," or "You're just a bit depressed,"
Oh,
what's it like when you hear that, Scott?
it did make, honestly, I could feel the hairs stand up on the back of my neck already. Stuff like that. Because on the back of me being broken back in 2017, I obviously went to the dark places. I had 2 suicide attempts because I felt I had nowhere to turn to.
Yeah.
Even now, I thought, not back then, I was thinking, who's going to believe me now?
Oh,
All these years later, who's going to believe my story?
wow.
And I just felt maybe people would be better not hearing them, to be better without me, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the place I went to.
And that's the thing, Scott. That's what people don't understand. Like, I don't know whether you agree with this or not, but myself, having been through it and working as a counsellor for 15 years, I believe that in most times it's the illness that takes the person.
It is.
I believe that a person gets so ill in their thinking that they think that they're a burden, they think that people would genuinely be better off without them.
Yeah.
That is the illness talking, that they are thinking irrationally. And that's the bit that, unless you've been there, people find it very hard to understand that. What do you think?
I genuinely think that people who haven't kind of suffered with, I'm not just talking about abuse, but any kind of mental health, anxiety, depression, even stuff like ADHD, bipolar,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Who people having to deal with something. People who haven't, I actually think that they think you've got a switch on the back of your head, you can switch it on and off. And we just haven't. That's not how it works. I wish it did.
Yeah.
I wish it was as simple as that.
So, Scott, I'm mindful there was a little bit of the signal going in and out. So I think what I was hearing there is that you're saying that the people who have never experienced any of those horrible experiences, and of course you wouldn't want anybody to experience those.
No, of course not.
But people that haven't experienced and don't understand, it's almost like that they have a switch at the back of their head and they're just completely switched off to it. And actually, it's an interesting point, Scott, because sometimes people have been through traumas, but they don't know it. They think it's their norm. And sometimes they do have literally a switch, as you say, at the back of the head, which will be known in counselling terms as compartmentalizing it.
Yes.
They shut themselves off, but sometimes that can manifest itself later on in life as a heart attack or a stroke because of something that's built up that psychologically has never been dealt with.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one because sometimes people don't know and sometimes people don't want to know, and that's fair enough. But then you've got other people, they've no choice. Like, I know when my own mental health went to pot in my 20s, I just wasn't functioning. I wasn't coping. I wasn't able to think straight. It's almost like that my mental health going to pot, that decision was made for me, but then it forced me to go into counselling and to find out what were the different factors that led me to be mentally ill, which I'm so glad I went through that process. I wonder, For yourself, Scott, I know you've got AndysManClub. Have you ever had counselling or,
Yeah,
that's,
I did. Yeah, I had rape and sexual abuse counselling. I went to a charity called Rosa. Incredible for me. Um,
yeah,
just to be able to sit in a room is where we carry on from this. Is that being able to sit in a room with somebody and actually have somebody listen to you without any kind of judgment,
yeah,
as though to say, "Did that really happen? Are you misremembering or
yeah,
anything like that?" There's nothing of that going on. It's just being given a voice was huge for me
yeah.
because I always felt over the years that I never had a voice about it.
Oh,
I was in counselling for 5 years, 5 years, and it only, to be fair, it only ended March, just gone.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And to be fair, Scott, it might be a case depending on what goes on in your life. I know this personally that sometimes I have to go back in to have some sessions depending on certain
yes,
phases
yeah,
or life stages. Do you know what I mean? Like that. I think unfortunately sometimes people think, oh, I'll have a set of counselling and I'm fixed for life. I don't think any of us are fixed, Scott. I think that'd be boring anyway.
no, I don't know. No, I don't think we are, and that's what we say, Andy's Man Club as well. That we're not there. We're not there to fix people.
Yeah,
You know, we're not there to give advice to tell them you should be doing this. We're not there to put labels on people
yeah,
or anything like that. We're all peer to peer.
yeah,
There's no medical professionals come to. Well, actually, there is, but what we turn around and say to them, you leave that at the door.
yeah, yeah,
When it comes to that door, with through at Lichfield, I've actually had from homeless to company directors walk through our door.
yeah, yeah.
And I always use the analogy of top. I always use the analogy of top trumps. So we're not playing a game of top trumps here. What's important to one people is no better than somebody else. So whoever walks through our door is completely equal to somebody else. Doesn't matter what car you drive, how much money you earn, or anything. Everybody is equal, and everybody deserves to be listened to.
Absolutely, 100%, Scott. Before I ask you about your club and AndysManClub in general, going back to your own story, Scott, and again, please only share whatever you're comfortable to do so. The fact of the abuse like happening mainly in the 1980s, do you mind if I ask you, was that abuse as a result of an organization, an institution, or within a family, if you don't mind?
It was. I have a bit of a strange one, really. My first section of sexual abuse was through a football coach, and I was 11 at the time.
Wow.
Um, I was quite small for my age. I was quite insular, very very quiet. Um, I wouldn't say I came from as many people do. I would probably say I was what they now call under the poverty line.
That you were what?
So I
Which
came from
Scott
that
say
kind
that
of
again?
background.
That you were what?
Sorry,
I
under
missed
the poverty line.
under the poverty line. Okay.
Un- Under the poverty line. So that's so I came from a council estate.
Yeah.
That's I know a lot of people do,
Yeah.
and so I didn't have anything. I did. So he took me under his wing, saying, "Oh, I can do this for you. I'll get you the boots. I know you can't afford it. We'll work out something." And
Oh,
we went down that kind of route.
he almost used that. He almost used that to
Yes,
manipulate his way to groom you.
yeah. And then on the back of that, once that happened, it was a case of it then came into, well, you can't say so and so because you wanted this because you wanted the football boots. And it went down that kind of route. So okay, your parents wouldn't believe you anyway. And all this, and
So
that's kind of route it went down.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, Scott.
And it's
Yeah, and Scott, for the listener,
Yeah,
yeah, I've already spoke to Scott before we came on the call to ask if it was okay for him to share a story, which he said that he's happy to do so. And the reason why I'm asking Scott about his story now is not because I want to trigger Scott, not at all, but it's a bit like the same way that when Scott heard somebody else's story that was life-changing for you, Scott. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
you just never know who might be listening to this where they unfortunately might have been sexually abused by their football coach when they were 11. And that's it. We don't want to keep hiding this stuff. We want people to be able to tell their stories because there's no shame, there's no stigma.
no,
This is what happened, and actually, it's okay to talk about it.
it is. They, and I say now, you hear a lot of people sit around and say, oh, that must have defined you how person as you are. And for a lot of time, I probably think that my sexual abuse defined the way I was. Now,
Yeah.
I just think
Yeah.
it's just another part of what happened. This wasn't overnight. This was just it's just about perseverance and pushing through. And there's many times where I just thought I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Understandably so.
so
He's-
but it's difficult. And as for my story, I mean that lasted a year,
Okay.
and then I luckily got out of that. The football manager was sacked. I know it's kids football, but so I managed to get out of it, and then I decided I didn't want to play football again. It
Yeah.
ruined me completely to
Yeah.
say, I just can't do it. And I was quite a good tennis player in school, so I
Okay.
decided to go down. I decided to go down the tennis route.
Yeah.
Um, but it's quite hard
Yeah.
because of my background. Um, again, people latch on to, especially when you're a child and growing up. Adults can latch on to children. It's
Yeah.
just, and then I became again. So where I went to, I think I got out of it great, and then I just rolled into something else, and it was just like. But it was the next 4 years was even worse than the first year. It was just it became I became part of a group ring, and I wasn't the only one. I wasn't the only one, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry,
And that
Scott.
was brutal.
So,
That was
Scott,
brutal.
just so I've heard this correctly, so you became part of a group ring. So is this like a group of
Uh,
abusers that was manipulating children, abusing teenagers?
yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly how it was.
I mean, wow. And yet again, like we talk about the era, the 1980s, the 1990s, we talk about the fact of, going through poverty. And I mean, what, like, it is just shocking, Scott. I'm just so sorry to hear that this has happened.
Yeah, and it's just it's just that you go back because they manipulate very very easily. They clearly, you know, and because it was the second time it happened to me, I really did generally think, is this something that I'm doing?
Unfortunately, that's the default position, Scott.
It
Unfortunately,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
when something happens to a child, when they're not being protected, they're being abused, when they don't have anybody saving them, keeping them safe, telling them otherwise, this is not okay. When they can't make sense of it, they then believe it must be me.
Must be me.
Yeah,
It's me. And so
yeah.
yeah, it was a pretty brutal 4 years. I won't lie. It was
Wow.
difficult, and it's yeah, it was hard. It was hard.
Wow, Scott, let's just pause for a minute. I'm sure anybody listening to this is feeling just the shock of all of this. I feel angry hearing this, Scott. So many different emotions when I hear your story. It makes me wonder, that we'll say go back to the football coach. It makes me wonder if he ever was brought to court over that, or if there was any justice for that when we think about the football coach, Was there any outcome of that? Were you able to get some sort of justice years later?
Um, no, I didn't get no justice. Um, I went. Eventually, I went to the police when I was in a position to do so.
Yeah.
They investigated as much as they could. So they said we'll literally put it on the shelf. It's there, but
Oh, Scott,
no,
that, that is
nothing was actually
disgusting
done.
behavior. That is disgusting behavior. And it's totally understandable for you to be upset about all of this because you've been let down by so many people and organizations here, Scott. So I just really want to acknowledge that and hear how important your story is and that none of this should have happened. Absolutely none of this should have happened. And this was never your fault.
Yeah, I know that now. I
Oh,
know that now, and I believe that now. For many years, I didn't.
yeah.
Like I said, I've had to go through quite a bit of counselling for that.
Yeah.
And also hearing lads, because even through counselling and everything, you still think you're on your own.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what,
You
Scott?
know?
That's such an important point that you're raising there, that people believe that they're on their own. And to be fair, you look back at the sort of stuff that that football coach was telling you, nobody will believe you. You're made
Yeah,
feel like that they isolate you. But actually, unfortunately, I know a lot of people listening will, unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case, but there'll be many men in their 50s that unfortunately will have gone through similar circumstances.
yeah. It's like I say, it's unfortunate, but you know the stories we hear coming through
Yeah.
AMC, it's just horrific,
Yeah.
and the amount, you know, every I'd probably say nearly every week, you know, somebody new will come through the doors, and they've got the same kind of story.
Wow, Scott, how do you manage that? I mean, that
It,
potentially can be very triggering. You were hearing other people,
it
especially similar stories. So I hear how powerful it is, but I wonder, you know, does it ever, for want of a better word, send you backwards, or does it?
Yes, it does. Oh, yeah, it does. Like, like I say, you never really fix, not
No.
totally. You know, and there's
Can we just
moments.
Scott,
There's
Scott, can we just put it out there that nobody's normal and none of us are fixed, okay?
no,
Can we just put
no.
okay,
No.
okay,
And if
okay.
there is, I'd like them to make themselves known because you know, it's
You wouldn't want to hang out with them. They'd be boring, Scott. They'd be,
no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't want to hang out. No, you wouldn't. No, because no,
oh,
no. I'll stick to the people I know. I'm okay.
exactly. So yeah, how do you manage that? So how do you? It's like, for example, so I do my mental health shows. I've got a mental health show coming up now at the Lichfield Garage, as you know, Scott, on 5th of October about suicide prevention. And of course, it's going to be highly triggering because I've been through it myself. But what I find
Yeah.
do is the following day, I make sure that I put space in my diary to absolutely cry my eyes out. I make sure
Mm,
the lead up of that week to the show that when I'm rehearsing that show as I do, I cry during the rehearsals as many times as I need to. So when I am performing on the night, I can contain it to a certain level. And to be fair, if I break down crying on stage, I don't care. I make no apologies for that because it is tough, all the stuff that we're talking about. But how about you then, Scott? How do you manage it so that it doesn't put you back into a black hole of depression and suicidal thoughts?
I cry as well.
Okay.
I do cry. I do cry. And you know, and that's what we do as a group. That we allow guys to be able to
Oh,
open themselves up completely to be able to show those emotions, whatever they've got going on. I
yeah.
mean, for me personally, I mean, it's still a massive trigger for me. It's still a massive trigger for me,
Yes.
and I will go home and I'll probably cry that night
Yeah.
if I haven't, even if we haven't already cried within the group, because it's amazing that even guys who haven't had sexual abuse but are going through their own kind of thing, whether it's work, family,
Yeah.
financial, anything. The amount of tears that get shed when
Oh,
there's a massive share like that comes through, and
wow.
you get at the end of the group, guys who not necessarily gone through that certain things. Oh my God, I never realised I had that emotion in me that it would trigger me like that. And that's what it does. I'm quite lucky now that um, after a night like that, we have a 20-minute chat between ourselves, the
Yeah.
facilitators, have a bit of a check-in. We should see over, and then we have a check-in next day as well, between us, just
Yeah.
to it's just to say, how are you this morning?
Yeah.
Hey, you okay? And then if there's not a response, we kind of know each other, how each other works, and blah blah. It may be another phone call. We'll check in on a phone call rather than just a message, just to make sure that somebody's okay.
Yeah, I love that, Scott. That's so important. Okay, so go on then. Tell me about Lichfield.
It is. I think that because yeah, I mean, like I said, I found AndysManClub back in 2018 after
Yeah.
a second suicide attempt. So I went online and I just typed in men's mental health.
Okay.
Um, of, there clearly wasn't a lot on there. It's so anyway, it kind of popped up. At this point, I was really at my lowest.
Yeah.
I've just had my second suicide attempt.
Wow.
I was miraculously saved on both accounts, both
Okay.
times that I did it. I claim them both as miracles. I'll go. I'll say briefly. For the first time, I'm a bit of a mountain biker. I took myself up the chase.
Oh, okay. I chased it. Yeah.
Yeah, I took myself up the chase. We used to build our own trails, so I know the chase really, really well.
Yeah.
So I took myself off route, um, put a piece of rope over a tree and hung myself.
Oh,
Two other mountain bikers who had never been up the chase before
okay.
got lost. So they got lost, came off track,
Oh,
and they came across me, cut
mm,
me down, obviously called the ambulance, blah, blah, blah. It's a miracle because I don't believe that if they hadn't got lost, nobody would have found me. So I
mm.
class it as a miracle, you
Wow.
know?
Scott,
So it was done for a reason. Anyway, I obviously went through the whole mental health hospital, mental health crisis teams, la di da. I'm not going to bash the NHS, but there's not a lot there for people, to be honest,
okay.
in reality.
Okay.
My second one, I thought, I'm going to do it at home because nobody will find me. So anyway, so what I did, I've got two dogs at home.
Right.
Anyway, so what I did, I know it did. I know it's dark, but it turns into a bit of a funny story in a
And
kind
it's
of way.
important to have the humor as well in
So
darkness.
yeah, it is dark humour and all that. So what I did, I took the dog lead and hung myself from the banister. But what do dogs do when they see a dog lead? They think they're going for a dog walk, don't they? So what they did, they were running around the house, blah blah blah, running around me, and I was getting that wrapped off with them running around that I thought took the dog chain off my neck, and I said, "Fine, I'll take you for a walk." What both dogs then did, they just came and sat next to me,
Oh,
and they didn't move, and it was just like, "Oh my God, did you know?"
wow, Scott, that's really
I
important.
know. I'm just.
Wow.
It gets. It always. The
Can we,
dogs always get me a
can we
bit.
just pause for a moment?
Gets me a bit emotional, really.
That is, I mean, animals. I remember that. That triggered a memory in me of a beautiful sheepdog we had at home that knew when I was in a deep depression. Wow, Scott, to have that. And because they do know,
Hello.
actually, they
Yeah.
do know. They do
They
know.
do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they do. I think they do. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Scott.
So I know. I know. Oh God. Yeah.
Wow, Scott.
Yeah. So no, again, that's why I call them both miracles because
Yeah,
it's
they are.
it's
Yeah.
I can't you know
They really are,
And
Scott.
just not,
Yeah. And you know what? Look what you're doing now. You've now set up the Lichfield Club. You're now using your story to help other people, which is exactly what I do as a counsellor. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like, turned our lives around, and we've learned from this and in a position to help other people so that they're not on their own. Scott, I'm mindful of time, so I really want to hear about how people can find out about Lichfield Club and where they can
okay.
go and
Yeah,
how they can get in contact with you, if that's okay.
yeah. Well, the charity itself is nationwide.
Okay.
We have 200 groups across the country.
Wow.
We all run exactly the same. We run from 7 till 9 o'clock on a Monday night.
Okay, 7 till 9 on a Monday night. And is that every Monday?
Every Monday, apart from a bank holiday.
Wow. And where in Lichfield do you meet?
At Lichfield, we're at Lichfield Social Club.
Okay, Lichfield Social Club and
Yeah, Netherstowe. Yeah.
Netherstowe. Yeah, lovely. And can guys just rock up or do they have to ring beforehand or what's the
No, no. What guys for any group if they go onto AndysManClub website
yeah,
and there's actually a link on there saying where's my nearest club.
okay.
So wherever they are in the country, they just click on that link, type in where they are, and then it will automatically bring up their nearest club. There's no fees, no appointments. You
Wow.
just rock up on a Monday night. There'll be a couple of guys at the front in AMC t-shirts
Yeah.
and facilitator wise will just introduce themselves because some people might not want to walk through thinking
Yeah.
it's a big step and it's a scary step.
Yes, it is.
Walking into not knowing what to expect, a group of guys,
Yeah.
but what a good thing. Free biscuits, free tea, coffee.
There you
You
go.
know,
Free biscuits, Scott. So
what
much. You know what I mean?
can you ask for?
Exactly.
So
Scott,
yeah,
that is
I know exactly.
uh,
Exactly. And chocolate ones as well. We don't
to laugh when if the listeners is there's a delay between us chatting. It's absolutely hilarious. By the way, if you're listening to this and not watching us on YouTube, it's great. Scott has got his AndysManClub t-shirt on, which is absolutely fantastic. So just go over that Monday night, 7 o'clock, Lichfield Social Club in Netherstowe. You can rock up. And Scott, I believe you're coming to my show at the Lichfield Garrick on the 5th of October.
Yes, I'm very, very privileged to be there.
Oh, Scott, it's going to be wonderful to have you there. And what I'm going to do is I'll let the audience know if that's okay. But wear your Andy Mann's t-shirt, so that way, if any guys just want to have a chat with you, because it is nerve-wracking. It is takes a lot.
I'll be wearing it, even if they just want to, pick up a leaflet, take it away. And what I always say to people when I'm giving talks, that it's not just about speaking to men at these things; it's about speaking to women because it might be, member of the family, brother,
Yeah,
partner, father, somebody that may work with, a friend who may be going through a few struggles, whatever it might be.
uh,
You might just think, you know what, I'll just take a leaflet and I'll just drop it into conversation instead of going down to have a look. And we're what we are is we're totally confidential,
yeah,
non-judgmental. So it's a bit of the old, what gets said in the room stays in the room.
like it.
We don't go out telling tales about this, that, and the other.
Uh,
It's totally confidential.
I've just realised, Scott, I called you Andy again.
And we have everything from people having, you know,
You just heard that now what I said.
to be honest.
Does anybody else make a mistake? Because I'm looking up Andy on your t-shirt. I'm thinking Scott, 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 and then my brain goes Andy.
Always.
Oh my! It's not just me then.
Andy, everybody, yeah, always. No, it's not just you. Any event that we go to, and oh, nice to meet you, Andy. Scott, and you go to the whole.
I don't feel so bad. Scott,
No.
I feel like we need to meet up for a cuppa anyway and chat longer because this morning definitely isn't long enough. And
No, it isn't. No.
I am loving speaking with you, and I think you're so inspirational, Scott. Like you have been through horrific stuff, and to be on here and to talk so openly as you've done about the stuff that you've been through is absolutely pure inspiration, Scott. And you just never know. I don't have a massive following. I don't do this for a massive following or to be the most popular person. I don't care. It's a case of if one person listens to this and they can relate to you and your story. If another person listens to this, decides, you know what, I'm not going to keep bottling up my emotions and I'm going to come along to Lichfield Social Club on a Monday night and just have some biscuits and chat to the lads. If that's what this does, then tick, tick, tick.
Exactly. I mean, one of our slogans is that one man. We're not after. Well, if hundreds of people want to walk through that door, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's that one man who may think they've got nowhere else to turn to.
Yeah, but they do. They do.
Walk to our door and have a walk.
Wow, Scott, I can't wait to see you at my show. Do you know, I do this thing right at my show because I do mix it up with a bit of humour. But I do this thing where I play an Irish song and we have an Irish dancing competition. And I think you should be one of the volunteers. What do you think, Scott? Would you be up for doing a bit of Irish dancing at my show?
Yeah, well, why not?
I love it. Well, fair play, Jed. I almost did it again. Scott, I'm going to hold you to that. Listen, I know the reception isn't great, so I suppose we better leave it for today. Scott, thank you so much for taking time out, and please look after yourself the rest of the day. Have a cry, do whatever you need to do. I know I've already checked out that you've got things in place to look after yourself after this call because I know it can be triggering. But thank you so much. And folks, listeners, Ben, who edits these videos, he'll be putting it in the chat about the details for AndysManClub. So guys, come on. Look, the times have changed. We don't have to keep bottling up all this stuff. Nobody wants that anymore. We want everybody to be happy within our family. So go along. Monday night, Lichfield Social Club. Look at Scott here. How friendly is he? Look, I'd nearly get a sex change just so I could come along.
I just want to say thank you for the privilege of being able to showcase what we do, really, and that there is help out there, and we are here for that one man to
absolutely that one man. So Scott, I know you break me. I know I'd be crying on this call. I know
have his own voice.
I knew that would happen, and rightly so, because that's all part of the healing and moving forward and not letting the past continue to hold ourselves back. That doesn't have to keep happening. Scott, thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait to see it at my show. That's a Lichfield Garrick Theatre, all about suicide prevention, folks. It'll be my turn for you to cry at that night, so bring your tissues, Scott. Okay, and come along, even just to see Scott's Irish dancing, folks. Okay, so Saturday the 5th of October, the Lichfield Garrick. Scott, thank you so much for your time today. You're an absolute star.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Counsellor Convos with Sheila McMahon. If you've enjoyed this episode, consider checking out her YouTube channel or pop on her website, mindmanagementforyou.com.